Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle. We are getting ready to stream live the final and second, it was supposed to be the third, debate between Joe Biden and our president, beloved to all, or to all sane people, Donald J. Trump. I could not be more excited about tonight. I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this for a week and a half, and now so many explosive things have come out, okay? Tony, I want to get his name right, Bobolowski. He is the former associate to Hunter Biden, who gave his emails to Breitbart, is going to be in the audience tonight as a special guest to our president. Oh my gosh. If you are on social media or you are anywhere, you are seeing what we are seeing. I'm waiting on Leah to get here. She's just texted me and said, I'm on my way. That was 6 minutes ago, so she should be here. I got my popcorn, all ready to go to throw at the camera when we are upset, and to maybe even throw up in the air when we are happy, and mostly breath going in my mouth because I'm hungry. But guys, Trump did an interview with 60 Minutes, and he told them, if you don't do this right, if you start lying and you become like the fake news media or whatever, I'm going to release it. So you know what he does? He releases it. He literally releases the whole thing. Doesn't even tell 60 Minutes that he's doing it. It was epic. It was so savage. I can't believe that he did it. But I can, because he's our president and he's awesome. All right, you guys, I'm going to unmute this and see where we're at. See if it's coming here. Okay. I'm streaming this from Right Side Broadcasting. Okay.
It is time.
Is it time? And final. It's not really a third, because the second one was a town hall.
It's not the third. It's actually the second.
See,
you see,
he just said it.
The second debate that we were supposed to have had
I'll let him talk.
Canceled. Why? Because
well,
what
I
you're
share
all
this
going
on
to be
Facebook.
speaking about tonight, and what I'm going to be speaking
too.
about tonight, the moderator. You know, the last one had to get canceled. The guy who interned for Joe Biden. Turns out, yeah, he was in the tank for the left. Here's what I want you to do tonight. As we watch Donald Trump go at it with Joe Biden and the moderator. Have fun. Try to have
exactly.
fun.
Thank you.
This
well
is
said,
as
my
good
friend.
As politics get. The stakes are as high as they can be. The blood is flowing right now. Maybe you have water in your hand. Maybe you have a cocktail in your hand. Don't ruin your night screaming at the idiot moderator or at the guy with Takbio kaputing for a brain. Spend your night enjoying yourself. It's going to be 4 years until you get to enjoy another final presidential debate. So it's going to be crazy. And
it's going to be crazy.
Donald Trump is going to bring up Joe Biden's Hunter Biden.
Yes, he
problem.
will.
Joe Biden's connection overseas. The moderator is going to jump in. Prepare yourself for it now and try to defend Joe Biden from it. Joe Biden's going to do the same thing he's always done and roll out some, that's been discredited thing, when it's been discredited by that.
I'm fast forwarding. I want to make sure we're there.
And I realize everybody's mad because the moderator just decided miraculously
412
to take
says
policy off the table. When Donald Trump
I don't want to watch.
Really by any
He's right about that. They decided to take any topic on foreign policy off the table, which is unheard of for a presidential debate. Oh my gosh. They are so... Guys, the stuff that has come out today... Let me mute this guy. The stuff that has come out today is so damning. The Wall Street Post has said if what we have found is true about Joe Biden, he has to step down of the presidential race. He has to do it. That is fire right there. I mean, it's just... It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. The stuff that is... This is the biggest presidential scandal. I can't even think, and I know my history. I cannot think of a presidential scandal this big ever. Like Watergate, yeah, that was big, but I mean, this is big. Every single thing that they were accusing Trump of, Biden is guilty of. Every single thing. There's stuff out there about Nancy Pelosi's son. It's all coming out. All right. This guy, Tony Bobolowski, that's going to be here tonight. He is a former Navy veteran. He served for 4 years. Totally credible. And he is saying that Joe Biden was in on it. That he knew about it. That he had to sign off on all of it because it was, quote, in the family's name. Right? So all of Hunter Biden's business dealings had to be signed off by Joe Biden, and Joe Biden has lied, saying that that's not true, that he didn't know anything about his son's business dealings. He is a liar, and he made bank on his son dealing with China and the Ukraine and a whole host of other foreign
show with Bill O'Reilly. As soon as Bill wraps up what he's doing,
officials,
I'm coming on. I'm going to give you an hour of interviews. I'll give you all my
we will
thoughts
answer.
on everything.
We will answer questions at the end of the show. It's going to be awesome. So if, thank you, Redneck. If it's on, I can't get this to go any more in the further. All right, here we go. All right, I love you, man. You could stop talking now because I'm going to do the same. Shh. Hush. It's on. We're done with you. He's still talking. Let's go to the debate.
Convince you there were the old days of decorum. All right, they're on stage. Let's rock and roll. I'll see you after, right here on the first.
Major topics at the beginning of each section. Each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators, we're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
It was China.
We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you and your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction,
Y'all
and just
know how we feel about the
40% of
vaccines.
Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
We're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way, every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. but he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about, don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families, every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9% of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy.
Fact check,
though.
Joe.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their habit where their wife or husband is gone.
No, because they're in nursing homes. Most of them are dying in nursing homes.
We're dying
40% of the deaths
because he's never said
came from the nursing home from the Democrat
When's
states.
the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away.
Hey.
Be gone by Easter. Don't worry, the warm weather. Don't worry, maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that. A lot of people thought it was serious.
Bleach.
A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did. You certainly did.
I talked about his xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handle it.
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border. Well, that's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Thank you.
There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Thank you.
And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down, he'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states.
Look at the states in the Midwest.
They're the states in the upper Midwest.
That's where the
spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need. Money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when
about...
you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly,
Excellent,
and then we're going to move on to the next section.
Our response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're going to move on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, you know. I could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able to.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I asked everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. It's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's stalking them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy well, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done?
Come on, Trumpy.
Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
What about
President Trump?
Google
Same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part, as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife, and you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know, someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John Ratcliffe, who was fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose. Because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them. But you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Come on, Trumpy.
Vice President Biden, you may respond in 30 seconds. And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life.
Okay.
We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact,
it's not a secret, it's an open bank account.
I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country. All around the world.
Where's the proof?
And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it. And it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody told you that. Excuse me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this. I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because I have a lot of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. Okay. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system.
He prepaid $50 million.
So, President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
Sure.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent 1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine. We had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned, of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy who made money from China is this guy. He's the only one.
My son has
Nobody
not
else
made
has
money
made
from
money
China?
from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
Could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this.
Well, it's
$183,000, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you.
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said
no one investigated it yet.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office,
she knows
you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad.
She did
a report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business.
Right.
The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was open to do. It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president.
Thank you.
Let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money.
President Trump, thank you. We do need to move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, and let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, I have to respond to that.
Okay. Very quickly, and then we're going to move on to North Korea.
With $1.5 billion from China to manage after spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what specifically are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You said you're going to make them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave $28 billion.
New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Everybody hates the sanctions.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money.
What happened to
It's called China. China paid $28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel industry.
Okay, Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, we can't get new tires for the ball because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is
to
typical
talk about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
one
want to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a typical
seconds.
political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks. The family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk about North
I'm not a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got elected.
Let's
get off the subject of China. Let's talk around sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul. Millions of people would be dead right now.
President Trump, that's 30 seconds. Thank you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the root. I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off, and they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
They tried to meet with him. They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I got to give him a chance to respond to that before we move on.
And that's okay. You know what, North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to. Your response.
We had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you.
And then they would have fired their missiles.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on and talk about American families.
He left me a mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do need to move on.
They left me a mess. North Korea was a mess. And in fact, if you remember the first 2 or 3 months, there was a very dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a very, they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare,
us
as we call
directly.
it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time, and I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But yes, come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job. And we're going to do even better.
Did they just mute his mic?
Okay. Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden-care. The public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid, and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I did. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare.
If you like your plan,
they did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None. Zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare, and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions, and all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
What's it's ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
he was there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania, and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
but somebody should ask the question.
You can ask.
He goes for a year. There will be
We have a number of topics.
No, but that's a big question.
We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care. Period.
Really good.
Period.
I love my president
And the Biden care
so
proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected
I've
billing,
heard Obama's
and have your
spiel. It
drug
was
prices
big,
drop
and it was-
significantly. He
all
keeps
my
talking
friends
about it.
paid
He
more.
hasn't done a thing
Everyone I know
for
paid
anybody
more.
on health care.
Exactly.
Not a thing.
Just when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
And
about
their
the
wives had to go to
health
work just to
health.
he's
get
talking about
insurance.
socialized medicine, and when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroying your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay, let's let Vice President Biden respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a very
your
confused
response.
guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that is going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
Come on,
He tried to get
10
rid of.
seconds,
He
Mr.
tried to hurt
President, and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move
but
on.
This
I'm
is
going
the
to move
guy
on.
that when they
Mr.
announced,
President, I have to move on to the next question.
He said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
gonna
will
have time to talk
boom
about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
Biggest
move on to the
analysts are
next
saying that.
question. Very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more. $700 billion more, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna move on.
Stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
We're going to move on to
and
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House, because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why ain't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal,
because let me ask Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mr. McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with these guys?
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these kids. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
if I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
So, I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. It's not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to immigration, but I want to get your reaction.
We have to help our small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very recently.
We have to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but
in
what I really like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, in different places, I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen. And we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border. At least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy. But the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had.
What is that?
We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But how will you reunite these kids with their families, Mr. President?
They built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you have a plan to reunite the kids?
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this conversation.
The kids were
Quick
people
response and
trafficked.
another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents.
You don't
They
know
separated
that.
them at the border
How can
to
you
make
not
it a
find the parents
disincentive
then?
to come to begin with.
So the parents are in the country
We're really
hiding?
strong.
They don't
And
care
guess
about their
what?
kids?
They cannot. It's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Lies.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
Did it. We changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
the-
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go.
So the parents went into
Nowhere
the
to go.
country and they're hiding.
It's criminal. It's
Come back and
criminal.
get your
Let me
kids.
ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down. We
seconds and then I
brought
need to
reporters,
ask you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of
I've
them
gotten
haven't been
such
reunited
But
with
just
their
ask
families.
one question.
Where are their parents?
Who built
Just
the
show up.
cages?
Here
I'd
up.
love you
Give
to
me my
ask them that.
kid.
Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President.
That's
the
the
Obama
stupidest thing.
administration
You're
did
like
fail to
acting
deliver
like the parents are
immigration
outside
reform,
the
which
door
had
and
been
you
a
won't
key
reunite them.
promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration
Record
overhaul now?
deportations under Joe
You made a
Biden.
mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact
just
is,
threw
I've
Obama
made it
under
very
the bus.
clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that
She asked
they
about
are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they go into a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's
being sex
it's
trafficked
illegal.
or child
And you say,
trafficked.
oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
Kristen, he had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But
Joe
he had
Biden
8
interrupted
years
Trump
he was
more.
vice president.
They let him
He
'cause they don't need
did nothing except
But Trump
build
hasn't tried.
cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing.
Nobody
This is
showed
the
up.
first president in the history of the United States of America that
Nobody
anybody
shows up.
seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in
You
America.
have to
come
seek
to the
asylum
United
in the
States and
first
you make
safe
your
country
case
you enter.
that I seek asylum based on the following on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
so
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come
Trump.
back. We have to send ICE out
It is
and
true.
Border Patrol out
And he
to find
interrupted
them.
again.
We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Yeah.
They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay, President Trump, let's give Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move
But
on
we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of
Two
that
old white guys
experience is
really just
something
thinking the same
called
thing.
the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents
If you
fear
don't
for their
vote for me,
children?
you ain't black.
I do.
Oh,
my
yeah.
daughter is a social worker, and
Where is
she's
your daughter?
She's
How come
written
she's not
a
on the
lot
campaign
about
trail?
this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work.
I think she's in
And
another
you know,
one of them on cocaine and crack.
One of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes sir, no sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal.
At the
Guess what?
funeral
We
of
have
a
never,
Grand
ever
Master of
lived
the
up to it.
KKK.
We've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things.
Sure you are.
Just to give people a shot.
KKK
It's about
rally.
accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
Racist Joe.
President Trump,
Barack
same
Obama's the
question
first
to you. I want
clean,
to remind
articulate,
you of the
mainstream
question. I would
black
like you
guy.
to speak
That
directly
kids
to
are
these
just-
families. Do you
poor kids are just
understand
smart as white
why
kids.
these parents fear for their
Joe
children?
Biden.
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they kept never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill,
I think that was
the super
Hillary
predators.
Trump.
Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice Chair?
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in Central Park 5 innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes that were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character.
No, we don't know your
character. You know our
character.
reputations for honor and telling the truth.
Grabbing Tara Reid by the blank.
I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious
girls,
to see this
women.
take place. The character of the country is on the ballot.
10% big guy.
Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
Right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue
from hell.
President Trump,
Nobody.
we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the
FBI,
former heads of the CIA,
and the DIJ,
both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this where you're
going?
This is where he's going. The laptop is
Russia wrote your emails.
Stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told them to stand down and stand
proud. They were proud. The proud.
This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a follow-up.
No, he made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
you said you're Abraham Lincoln.
No, where did that? No. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm saying,
I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put tens of thousands of black men, mostly, in jail.
All right, let me ask Vice President Biden
because if you look at what's happening with the voting right now,
let me ask Vice President Biden.
They treated them very, very badly. Just take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, their fathers, their uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families.
I don't have sympathy for drug addicts. I don't know what it is.
We passed 100%, all 100 senators
Why are they victims?
A bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the sense, and particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that
because his son does cocaine.
Send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment.
With somebody else's prescription,
that's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done.
Cocaine is illegal.
Because I think the American people have now seen that in fact it was a mistake to pass those laws related to drugs. But they were not in the crime bill.
Where do you stop it?
Why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a lot of it done. We released 38,000. We got 38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison.
We
got. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one question. Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
So good.
There's a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well, you got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
like I did with criminal justice reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change.
Can I stop the debate
President
now?
Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President Biden.
And we haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit of emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs. And it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, here
they came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. That his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC plus 3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. Yeah, and this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it could be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion.
Queens.
Give me a break. This plan this is planned and endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, $45, $50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump, please respond, and then I have some follow-up.
We are energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds, it's very intermittent, it's got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist
solar.
Said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right, let me allow Vice President Biden to respond.
I never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is, he's flat lying.
Would you rule out anti-fracking?
I do rule out anti-fracking because the answer, we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money in doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question.
Excuse me. He was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking or oil on federal land.
Let me ask this final question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they are making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was under, in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them. to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. Okay. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again. Right. And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car when there was first frost to drive me to school, turning the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutants, the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final question.
Would you close down the oil industry? Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
A big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
that's
you can't
a big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. You won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give it to solar and wind. That's maybe the biggest statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because basically what he's saying is he is going to destroy the oil industry. Okay. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
is he going to get China to do it?
No, we're finished with this.
Is he going to get China to do it?
Our final question.
No, I'm going to rejoin Paris Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right. This is about leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy, we can deal with the systemic racism, and at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect,
Absolutely,
treating
brother.
people with dignity, making sure
Absolutely.
that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
Or the 47
All right,
years.
I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
So, we're going to do a little wrap-up, right? Yeah, I gotta fix the lighting now. We are definitely doing a wrap-up. We will be reading your questions, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah, don't go anywhere, because we're going to... I was making notes, because I didn't want to forget some of the big points that...
There was a lot of notes. We'll be here for another hour.
No, they're really not. First of all, first impression of how Trump and Biden handle themselves. Did Biden lose it like we thought?
No, Biden did excellent. On Biden's level of what Biden could do, he gets a 10.
However,
Biden gets a 10.
How was Trump compared to last time and his personality?
I didn't know that Trump had it in him to be so controlled, to be so respectful, to be so I don't know. He like in the middle when he said, "By the way, I really..." So here's the thing that we love about Trump.
Biden couldn't do both. Biden could only do the notes.
We love about Trump is that he is honest and he will say what is on his mind. Right. And so in the middle of the debate, what was on his mind? She is not doing what I thought she was going to do. I am going to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
That is what Donald Trump does. Even if it goes against what his narrative. He's not a liar. He's not a spinner.
So I'm going to call this the debate of one-dimensional Joe and Trump showing his ability to step outside of his normal personality.
Yes.
So Trump, one-dimensional Joe versus multi-dimensional Trump.
Stayed Joe. He was just the best of himself.
No, he spent 5 days with his notes and his numbers.
This is you,
my
Joe.
Notes and my numbers. I can't move, and he couldn't move from the notes and the numbers.
Right.
Trump is so multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
He can hit Joe with here. He can interact positively with the moderator. He can bounce all over the place, and he could also see when Joe. He was sad for Joe, and this particular moment, he was like, I believe that the reason he was interrupting last time was to fill the airtime.
Yeah.
And so now he can see that while Biden can read notes. Mm-hmm. And that's all Biden did.
Right.
Was read notes.
I like what Edward Wallace says, that Trump was a statesman today. But Joe was still a politician.
Yeah.
And when
politician,
if our friend is watching,
after
she messaged us after the last debate, she's like, Biden spoke to the American people. Biden spoke to the American people. That's politics speak.
Yeah.
That's when you don't know what to say, when you can't hit the policies, you just go to
euphemisms.
The kitchen table. I'm going to be the president for everyone, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. There's no facts in there.
But he was a politician for 47 years.
So he knows the
He didn't unite the country under Obama. Oh, but actually, under Obama, the country was way more divided.
Yeah.
And actually, people who voted for Obama left Obama after the 8 years. And what has Obama done for me? What did Obama and Biden do to bring this country together? Now, let's go over some of these notes. Okay. So, I was so impressed that this moderator, I believe, did a fantastic job of staying down the middle of the road. She did ask Joe Biden about the
Hunter Biden emails.
Russia and Iran, will they pay a price? This on the foreign policy front, it was very interesting to see Trump just go full on out, and I wish that they had ended with that, even though they had led with that, because you want to see the biggest hits at the end. But I think that Trump coming out full on, but he did it in such a constrained way that it showed all of the holes. Joe Biden didn't answer any of the questions about why his son. One thing, fact check Donald Trump. It was 83,000, not 183,000. But hey, we're throwing around huge numbers here. We have Joe Biden saying Giuliani is a Russian asset, and that the emails were Russian because how many of you have read translations from Russian into English?
Yeah,
that's
not good.
It's a no good. It's no good.
Not good.
Russia didn't write those emails. Okay, Bublinski, whoever.
Russia didn't invent pictures.
Came out. So
there's pictures.
Russians did not invent. So an hour before the debate, a guy on the email chain said, "I was part of this email chain."
Tony Bobulinski.
You said it right. They're not Russian. This is not a Russian disinformation.
Who was in the audience tonight, by the way.
Trump calling him the big guy. Did we call you the big guy? And the way he said it was, I don't know if you're the big guy. Are you the big guy? He said it in a magnanimous way.
And I hate to be the English correcting person, but it technically was big guy, and Trump said big man, and everybody keeps saying big man, and it just bothers the grammar Nazi in me. I'm sorry.
So about the Trump tax returns, I want to be clear on this. These are lies that are peddled. Trump paid a $750 filing fee because he had prepaid $50 million before, and that rolls over. How many of you, or how do you and I pay $50 million a year beforehand? That doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay. So for all 50, I think a prepaying of $50 million is a lot of money, don't you? In taxes.
Well, and did you hear how Biden said, well, and Trump's quoted as saying the only reason why he didn't pay so much is because he's a smart guy. And I'm kind of going, every American that has never tried to follow the law to pay the least amount of taxes ever, raise your hand.
But here's the thing, right? So even with the prepay of the $50 million, that was the least he could get his taxes down to. So he was still paying a bunch of money. With everybody was today on the left was trying to say, but Trump had a Chinese bank account.
$180,000.
He cleared that up. He opened it in 2013. He closed it in 2015. He's a businessman. He does business everywhere.
And he said it's listed. It's open. It's not.
Here's the thing.
It was not a secret
This is what
account.
I've been telling people. If Joe Biden, as an average citizen, was taking 10% as the big guy,
just clear it up.
No. If he's a businessman, that's okay.
Right.
But he's not just a businessman.
Exactly.
He's a politician, and the reason he's doing the business deals is because he's offering favors to the Chinese government.
Pay for play.
So Joe Biden could be a businessman. He could have money in anywhere. Qatar, I don't care.
Right.
Iran doesn't matter.
Right.
What matters is how did you get that business deal? And he got it through peddling his influence.
But if these business deals where he's getting this money, if they were on the up and up, I'm saying clear it up.
The emails are really clear. They come out today. So many bombshells coming out today. You guys got to watch Tucker Carlson. You got to read from the New York Post. You have to educate yourself because the mainstream media is not going to do its job.
The New York Post came out and said, if these are legit, and
that was the Wall Street Journal.
Excuse me, the Wall Street Journal. If these are legit and they look like, they didn't say this part, but I'm saying it. They look like they are. If these are legit, then
Joe Biden has
to step down.
He can't even run for president. That was from the Wall Street Journal. Okay, I love when Trump said that all of his family, and they're all of his family. Now, when you're looking at these emails, you're seeing that his brothers are involved, his son's involved. The whole family is
Joe Biden's family.
As Trump puts it, like a vacuum cleaner.
Right.
Vacuum cleaner sucking in money from all over the world. He said $10 million for introductions only. So Hunter Biden was paid from the Chinese. $10 million for introductions.
And who is he introducing if it wasn't Joe Biden?
And Trump and Biden coming out saying, no, that's malarkey. That's just crazy. Hitting the point home with Joe Biden trying to say Trump is friends with Kim Jong-un. How do you deal with a dictator? Trump has walked the line because if he throws Kim Jong-un under the bus, World War III can explode. So what Trump has been doing is using a heavy hand. He called him Rocket Man. He used a heavy hand, and after that heavy hand, he met with Kim Jong-un. He met him toe to toe, and we all felt like when Obama was president.
Yeah.
We all felt like we were going to war
with North Korea.
And we've not. And tensions. Here's the thing. This is what I've heard a lot of people say. You go to sleep at night, and it's not what you're thinking about. It's what you're not thinking about. You're not thinking about war with Russia. You aren't. You're not thinking about war with North Korea. And you're not thinking about ISIS. ISIS was on everybody's lips. You're not thinking about Syria. We're not turning on the news.
You're not even thinking about radical Islamic terrorism.
Exactly. Here's the thing. You're not going to get rid of Islam. If Trump hated Islam, he would go out and talk about it, okay? He dealt with the issue where it was at, and he did it in a very, very good way. There were 4 nuclear tests under Obama and Biden. What did they do about it? They didn't do anything.
Edward Wallace says Joe would only say that the money wasn't in his name.
Oh, bingo. So then he goes out and he says, Joe Biden says something really stupid. And he says, yeah, well, we had good relations with Hitler before World War III. Okay, Kim Jong-un's people are starving so much, they're using their own fecal matter for fertilizer, and they're all filled with worms. The defectors that are found are filled with intestinal worms. They are sick people. They do not have the capabilities of mounting your World War III, okay? You have to, Trump is trying to do is keep Seoul, a city of 20 or 30 million people in South Korea, safe from any sort of escalation. And right now, the peace that he is bringing is filled with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah. South Korea is filled with Christians. And what they're trying to do is peacefully unite this country, not blow it up, okay? Talking about asylum and the catch and release. Obama said, this was this great thing. Under us, this catch and release, people were coming here for asylum, okay? And we would just say, come on back, and they came on back. Only less than 1% people came on back. That was a total fabrication, a total lie. Again, with the asylum, they're not seeking asylum. Asylum is your first safe country. Mexico is a safe country. And Biden threw Mexico under the bus by saying they're sitting in squalor in Mexico. Mexico is not a third world country, by the way. Maybe you can call it a second world country, but it's actually a first world country. Right. People go on vacation in Mexico. It is not a third world country.
Now, Red says, you notice how angry Joe got when Trump asked who built the cages, Joe.
Exactly. Joe built those cages, and what you didn't really catch what the moderator said was there's a graph out there, and it's like this is the number of the deportations under Obama, like 400,000, and this is the number under Trump. Trump actually has it's like not even a quarter. It's like not even a tenth.
Obama actually had a really hard stance on illegal immigration.
He really did.
The left didn't have to walk that back until Trump started running on it.
I love how he kept going after 47 years, Joe, plus 8 years as vice president. Your clock is up, okay?
Well, I think the 47 includes the 8, but yeah.
So then Biden says, I'm talking about I said including 8 years as vice president. And as the moderator said, he says, the moderator, I like the way you're handling it. You're doing a good job. He learned that from Mike Pence. That was a home run. He says, for 3.5 years of this crisis, he said that was a big Biden mess up, and I wonder how many people will catch it. I think that they will watch it back, and they'll catch the mess up.
He called it 3.5 years of a pandemic.
So, yeah, of a crisis. He said the 3.5 years of this crisis that we're in.
Are you sure he wasn't just referring to Donald Trump's presidency, though? He could walk it that. He could say that that's what he meant. Well,
sure, but that's not the way he meant it. As far as the $15 minimum wage, I don't really care about it either way.
But Trump is right, though. When you raise the minimum wage in places that are where the income ratio isn't the way that it is in New York and California, then all of a sudden these businesses have to go under because they either have to shut down or they have to fire employees because they can't afford it.
Again, with the race issue, okay? Joe Biden spoke at the eulogy of Robert Byrd, who was a Grand Master of the KKK, who actually, he wasn't just a KKK member. He started his own KKK wing chapter and went and recruited over 100 men to join it.
But Leah, that's in his past.
And he also,
that's what they say,
filibustered or however he was, he stood against the Civil Rights Bill. And the way Bill Clinton said it was, he was just some guy from West Virginia, and that's the way West Virginia.
The way they were.
So if you're just going to say that about, you need to disavow the KKK, and anybody needs to be disavowing the KKK, it would be Joe Biden, right? Again with Trump and the laptop, Russia, and then Joe Biden called the Proud Boys the poor boys.
He did. And I was like, maybe that's because you were getting ready to say that poor kids are just as smart and talented as white kids.
Exactly. Let's see. under Donald Trump, I did not know this until recently, the CO2 levels are at the lowest that they've been in 35 years.
Incredible.
But there's more cars on the road, there's more manufacturing going on, and so those CO2 levels are going down. And I do believe that Trump wants clean air and stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting that the one drug that he pointed out that he wanted to get rid of the jail time for was cocaine, because his son has issues with cocaine.
Right.
And I am not for getting rid of. I believe people who are doing drugs, sometimes you're faced with two choices. You're going to go to jail, or you're going to go to rehab, okay? And you have to stay in that rehab, and you have to complete that program. If you leave that program, then you have to go back to jail.
Exactly.
And I don't believe that is something to be taken very lightly, okay? Because we know drug addicts.
They would have to transition all rehab programs to be a jail-like type program where you are locked up.
But no one talks about prescription drugs. Why do you need a prescription if you can do drugs legally?
Right.
Why do I need to sign a thing just to get Mucinex?
No, it's beyond that though, Leah, because it's why is any drug illegal or prescription if there is no legal ramification?
Why are there drugs behind a counter
if
we can legally all just do cocaine and heroin?
Right. Exactly.
So nobody talks about this. Okay? So if you're going to say you're not going to lock people up,
it's a very libertarian stance, Joe.
Then you don't need a prescription for any drug ever.
Right.
Everything's a free-for-all. That bothers me to no end. With Trump, the opportunity zones, he has tried, and here I'm a libertarian, I don't believe you should be taking money and funding HBCUs, historically black colleges. I don't think the government should be funding colleges at all, period. I don't think the government should be funding a lot of these opportunity zones. I don't believe in that. I am a libertarian. I believe churches should take care of it. Churches should step up. Christians should step up. And that's Nonprofits should step up. And why aren't they in these communities?
Right.
Okay? And I think that the role of government is to produce good citizens and to actually create volunteer opportunities.
Right.
So if I had anything to say about the role of government in that position, I would just say the role of government should be like, if you're a billionaire, then you're a jerk. That's just true. If you're a millionaire, you're a jerk. You should be helping out your community. Right. And that's the way of Jesus. And everything that Joe Biden was saying about energy, he was lying about the fracking. I'm not a fracking fan, but I'm actually I'm not a fan of lying. Okay, because last night Trump has been playing clips of what Biden has said was, yes, I will ban fossil fuels, which is banning fracking. Okay, you're not going to get there, and this is what Michelle and I talk about all the time. You're not going to get there with solar panels. You're not. The energy consumption that we're sucking today, you have to have more solar panels. You destroy the environment with solar panels. You actually destroy the environment with these wind turbines. You cause headaches. You cause nausea.
Kill the birds,
you kill the
man.
birds. What we need are people. What you didn't see anybody say. And what the Green New Deal people don't say, and I know this is not about the debate.
Carbon sequestration, sustainable living.
Is reduce, reuse, recycle. Okay? What Trump was right to say, this is a pipe dream. What you're saying is we're going to try to make a technology that I'm somehow some wonderful scientist. They're getting on Trump for the vaccine, right? I don't know if Bill O'Reilly's there. They're getting on Trump about the vaccine, but my question to Joe is, you don't have the science
to do what you want
to do.
It's not there.
And you are trying to predict that there is going to be science there to do what you want to do.
Right.
So you're lying to the American people to say that you have in your crystal ball the ability to do this.
Right.
So I thought that while Joe Biden was able to kind of stay in his lane and do his notes and kind of go toe-to-toe on the topics, Trump won this in a landslide because Trump stepped outside of his realm.
Yes.
He grew. It was like watching your kid on stage, or watching them at a basketball game, and they used to miss some layups, but they hit every single shot. That's why Trump won.
Well,
he hit every single shot.
I feel like he did an excellent, seamless job of putting in the facts of the Hunter Biden and Joe Biden scandal that's happening right now, of putting it in there without being overbearing, with just being factual.
This whole debate was about how Trump's his disposition was, here, we're going to rate disposition. Oh, Biden was angry. He was forceful. He was political. He was pushing out numbers. Trump was affable. He was likable. And he had some of those moments like he did with Hillary Clinton. And because he slowed down, he had the zingers. And he had the jokes.
We know that.
Queens.
We know that.
Where's this guy from?
Queens. We do know that people were coaching Donald Trump after Mike Pence's performance with Kamala Harris, because I think it was when he was talking to Rush the other day, or I don't remember who it was he was talking to, and he's like, they're saying, you know, I kind of need to do this, and so he decided to roll that and incorporate that into...
And still be himself.
And I was really, really impressed. And this debate, it's like you completely forget about the last one.
Yeah.
After this one.
Yeah, you do.
From all sides. The moderator...
All Trump needed to do was what he did tonight to win it.
Exactly.
Because everybody was saying, I wish he just wouldn't have talked over Joe. And you saw Joe
multiple times.
Trump many times. Many times. And Joe didn't stop being Joe.
Yeah.
But Trump shows that, and this is the best thing I know about Trump, is he doesn't get offended like you and me.
Right. What do you want? If this is what my people want from me,
this is what I'm going to do. You guys want me to let Joe hang himself and give him enough rope to hang himself?
Yeah.
I think that Trump gave Joe enough to make himself look angry and bitter and spiteful.
Yeah. Wade Bennett says, I agree. Trump owned Biden. On Facebook, we have Sean Williams said, much better moderator tonight. Could you share your snack? We really tried to give it to you guys through the camera. You ladies are very intelligent and very spot on. Keep up the good fight. Thank you, Sean. Jane O'Malley says, love Trump, LOL. I don't have the Twitter comments up tonight.
Says,
sorry, guys.
This whole debate was all about how everything is supposed to be Trump's fault.
Right.
And then I love this comment here from Damn Lie Busters. Wear a mask. Harm your health to prevent you getting COVID, only to then get it injected into you anyway.
Anyone 2020.
I agree. Trump owned Biden. Yeah.
The fact that Joe tries to, and he consistently does this, twist what happened with COVID. It's like, Joe, we all lived it. We were here when Trump wanted to shut down the country and you called him a xenophobe. You can't twist that and contort it. It's too fresh in our memories. You know what I'm saying? You can twist and contort something that happened 5 or 10 years ago, but you can't twist and contort something that happened in March.
Compared to Savannah Guthrie, compared to Chris Wallace, she moderated a debate. She did not insert herself. She did not make herself the story.
I don't know anything about her other than
she's a Democrat.
No, I know. What I mean is I've never followed her.
She hates Trump. Yeah.
I mean, as a journalist,
yeah.
Okay? I've never watched her that I can think of putting her face to it. So I can't compare this to anything. All I can do is compare it to whoever else they have picked heretofore. And oh my gosh, I believe she wanted to be seen from both sides because I think she knows where this is going. I think she knows that Republicans are going to own the Senate, the House, the presidency, and the media here shortly. Okay, I think so she wants to retain her job. And in order to do that, she had to be a fair moderator.
I think she wanted to, I think she was led by the Holy Spirit because I prayed for her. And I prayed that she would need to be fair. Now, I think that she wasn't fair in that she got to choose the topics. So the topics, none of them were really in Trump's favor. And the way she framed them were still kind of negative.
Sure.
But she did punch a little. Here's the thing. She punched a little at Joe, so we're all like, woo!
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit. And that just goes to show you the low bar for the moderator. And I agree with somebody said there should be 2 moderators, a conservative and a liberal. And I absolutely agree with that.
Well,
hey!
I think that
babies.
when we're looking at these moderators, you know, with you're talking about the low bar and asking Joe these tough questions. Well, Trump and those of us in the conservative media have been saying they are unfair.
Yeah.
You guys are unfairly asking questions. You are asking Joe Biden these low softball questions, and you won't hit hard. And I think also today's 60-minute interview
with Leslie Stahl
made her probably change up her game a little bit, because
I don't want to be accused of that.
I don't want it, because Trump literally said to her, you won't ask, you came out here and you said, are you ready for the tough questions? And Trump's like, did you say that to Joe? Are you ready for the tough questions? Mm-hmm. So this lady had to be like, all right, I have to ask at least some tough questions. And so what I'm trying to say is, don't stop talking. Mm-hmm. Don't stop calling out their lies, because they feel it too. They have to change. So we cannot stop calling out what they do, because it will force them to change.
All right, Tucker the moderator. We should probably sign off here.
We do need to sign off. Guys, it's been an excellent night. That was a very enjoyable debate. Way better than the first one.
I think it was really great to watch again. I think we're going to see clips come out, and I think we're going to see the zingers. Only Trump had the zingers. Biden didn't have any zingers.
All Biden had was laughs.
He had laughs. Ha, 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 ha.
Right.
And that's what you do when you're stuck in a corner. You don't have an answer.
Exactly.
And Biden, we did see a couple times where he had some moments where he could have filled some time, but he didn't have words to say because his words were written down.
Exactly. Adeline says, I had a surgery today in hospital, going home tomorrow. Not done. Chemotherapy then. But I'm in a better mood now. So, God, I pray that you heal, Adeline, and bring comfort. And I hope that it goes well when you go home and moving forward. So keep us updated on that.
So I declare this winner by far, blown away. Everybody's going to say Trump won this debate. No one is going to say Biden won the debate. You might have a few lefties. Some people might say it's a tie, but to me, Trump was debating himself.
I was just kidding. You stole the line from me. I was waiting for you to stop talking, and I was going to be my next line.
So
he is debating himself.
That literally just came to me.
I was sitting here, I was like ready to, because I ESP'd it to you. You felt it in my mind. Because I was sitting here going,
I was like, where did I come up with that?
Because I beamed it to you. But tonight's debate wasn't against Joe. It wasn't, because this race is Trump's to lose. Mm-hmm. And so he was debating himself.
That's it. That's it. It was his to lose. And if he held his own and he kept his calm and he showed people that he could be a gentleman, then he would win, and he did win.
Exactly. Robert Bone, Biden may have to drop out of the election. If he was a Republican, all of the MSM would be like rabid dogs after him to do the right thing for your country.
Here's the thing. Nobody tuned in to watch Biden.
No.
70 million people, and I think it was way more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, way more than 70 million people watch this. We have a billion, how many billions of people around the world? People watch this debate. And they were watching because they wanted to see Trump, but they wanted to see, will he sink himself, or will he didn't just sink, he didn't swim, he got off out of the ocean, he took off the boat, and he rode off into the sunset.
Let me put it to you this way.
He should feel so good. Now, he didn't do his the way he would do it.
Right. No.
But I want him, hey, Trump, you're watching, you did it right. You did it right. You did the best that you could do in this whole situation, in the whole circumstance. You did you the best. Your kid's out on the thing. Trump, you did, with every question that was handed you, with, you can only handle what she says, you can only handle what Biden says. You did the best that you could do. And that's what we ask out of anybody.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, not so much.
So here's my thinking.
You didn't even read your poor boy notes right.
Every Trump supporter
is
like, hats off. Woo! Trump did awesome. Okay? All the Biden supporters are probably doing the same thing. The middle of the road people are going, well, Trump's not that bad.
Yeah.
I am going to vote for him.
Yeah.
He's not that. Yeah, of course he's not that bad. So, of course, I'm going to vote for Trump because really, So what I'm saying is if anybody gained tonight, it was going to be
Trump. The Biden
Trump.
Supporters are happy because he didn't have too many flubs.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but you're right. The people in the middle weren't watching to see what Biden would have to say.
Right.
They're watching to see if Trump could hold it back a little, just hold it in enough.
Yeah.
And I think I've got neighbors and people who might be on the fence and I just don't like his personality who will watch this, and he's going to pick off a few.
And to be fair, and you always hear fairness here on the show.
Of anybody.
Biden did really good tonight.
Oh, and if you see Frank
tonight.
Luntz, he's the guy who used to weigh a whole bunch on Fox. He's a pollster and he's kind of thinner now. He is actually in those emails with Hunter Biden talking about how he covered Joe better, and Hunter's like, you didn't cover my dad very well, and he's like, yeah, I did, and this guy was even my client, and I declared your dad the winner of that debate, even though that was Paul Ryan. Even though Paul Ryan was one of my clients, I declared your dad winner of that debate. And so that was an email exchange that he had with Hunter.
Wow.
So you can't listen to Frank Luntz, who was saying that, Trump needs to do more to reach out and all these things, because here he is having personal conversations with Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
About who he declares is the winner of debates. Like, they are inserting themselves, the pollsters are inserting themselves as a person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Granite Guy says, Trump is the winner, bottom line. Edward Wallace says, God bless USA, go President Trump. All right, I do need to, Patriot Galler asked me to do a shout out for where you can find us. All right,
There's a new place.
We're on Rumble. Dan Bongino has bought into it, so you can see a lot of the Bongino reports there. Our podcast, which is on Podbean, but it's everywhere. It's on ResistanceChicks.com. Also on ResistanceChicks.com are all of the latest videos and episodes that we have done. We're on Bitchute. We're on Minds. All of this is as Resistance Chicks. We're on Brighteon. We're on Drop.Space. JoshWhoTV. WEGO. We're on there as Mass Faith 3 and created by Divine Design. On our blogger, which is
Isaiah 58 Ministries and Resistance Chicks.
Exactly. We're on Facebook. We're on Parler. We're on Twitter. We're on... all right, so anyway, I think that's all of them, and you please be subscribed to our YouTube channels, Mass Faith 3, Resistance Chicks, and Patriot Gallery's new channel created by Divine Design.
And this is a shameless plug. Okay, shame. I have no shame. I was going to make a separate video for this, and I went over. Like, there's no way to do this because Michelle does all the Facebook comments. So I'm just going to put this out there. Michelle's birthday is November 9th. If you would like to send cards to, it's the, the twice a year, on my birthday and Michelle's birthday, we appreciate that you just kind of dropping a line. My favorite thing is when they come from all over the place and we say, oh, there are people who are watching from everywhere from Hawaii to Australia to Scotland. And it makes
Iowa.
my day. Or Iowa. I love you people in the Middle America.
I'm not going to lie. The cards that come from everywhere, Leah has been writing notes on your envelope.
Double uses.
We very much,
oh my gosh, look at this. Shameless plug.
What? Energy awareness.
Yeah, that's funny. On the envelope is
we don't get enough letters from you guys like we used to. So
hey,
please
one
send
more
us your
shameless
letters.
plug. We never ask for money, and I'm not asking for money.
We are not asking for money. I don't know where she's going with this.
I know, because I was going to make a separate video, but I'm going to throw this out there for any... You guys are like, how can I help out Resistance Chicks? And you guys never ask for money. Okay, several times, Michelle has literally been sitting here with tears...
No, don't ask for money. Don't ask for money.
You can step away. Tears down her eyes because something's going on with the computer and we can't get the software to work, okay?
But we have I want to clarify something, though.
But I want to get Michelle a standalone computer just here for the basement. If you feel led and you feel, hey, I've been wanting to help you and you want to do something just for the show, this would be just a computer just for the basement, we do have a donate button on Resistance Chicks channel, thanks to Jay. Thank you to Jay because he has helped us put that Resistance Chicks, not the channel, the website. I don't know how else other people donate. I have no idea.
For money.
I have no idea how else other people donate. You can send things in the mail. But if you guys want to, if you're like, hey, I've really been wanting to help you guys out. I am not the kind of person, we're not subscribe star. There's no GoFundMe. Listen, if somebody gets sick in my family or something like that, I'm going to get a GoFundMe, right? But I feel like those need to be saved for cancer or something crazy like that. This is just a computer and we'll get it no matter what. But if you want to say, I helped with some software, go ahead.
We'll get a little brick for you.
We'll get with
your name on it.
We'll put a little badge somewhere with your name on it. But I'm throwing it out there. I don't have any free gifts to send in the mail.
On our show.
No, I'm not. I'm asking if you want to be a partake in the software so that we can keep bringing you things, because there are times when Michelle doesn't want to come to a live story because she's like, my stupid computer.
It actually happened 5 minutes before I went live for this. I said, dear God, I sit here and pray over this computer. I'm like, God, tonight is too important, because it was just going so slow. And I said, Jesus,
take the wheel.
You got to bring this thing to life, because we are going live if I have to pull out my cell phone. Okay, so
someone's throwing it out there. You guys want to? Wow. You want to? It's great. We got a P.O. box. 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. So you can send your cards.
I do want to hear from you guys.
Happy birthday
The letters
cards. We love
mean
them.
so much to me.
Shameless plug. Do you see that?
Wow, Leah.
There's
That's
my
really
notes.
funny.
It says a plug. Energy awareness.
I had no idea where you were going with that. But it literally, Patriot Gallery wrote down announcement at the, oh, you can't see it. It's the wrong light. But, so that's our announcement where we are at. So I hope that, that helps you guys find us.
Well, you can send a computer. What, do you work on computers, Edward? Go ahead, man. What do you take on a computer? We'll just take the computer. Sure. We'll set it all up.
All right. Yeah, it's going to have like tracking stuff. We don't trust people. I'm just kidding. Okay, so guys, the election is how long away?
It's like, what is it, 12 days?
A week and a half.
12, 13 days? 13 days?
I can't. We will be going live. Resistance Chicks did not exist for election 2016. We had our Mass Faith 3 channel and we did videos, but Resistance Chicks itself did not exist for election 2016.
I know.
So we're going to be here election night. We're going to be going live throughout. Yes, I have decided.
But we didn't hear
little bits
until like
little bits
2
here.
a.m.
Like what I'm saying is, we'll do
little
little
shows.
segments.
Yeah, with a new computer.
If some,
just kidding. You won't be
if
here
something comes up. We will.
We got a phone, baby.
I am so excited about
even though my phone died.
Exactly.
My phone is supposed to be waterproof. I got myself a waterproof phone because you know what I do to my phones? I don't know how they get into waters. Okay? Matt one time jumped into the pool with the phone in his pocket, right? So I say to myself, I'm going to give myself a waterproof phone. It was just raining and it got a little water around my pocket and it just like
if we
died.
need to beg for something, it's you.
And here's the thing. This is how it died. Okay? It died because the screen died, and it died a very slow, agonizing death because I have alarms on my phone that you have to dismiss with the screen. And so we had to, it's in Rice. I don't know if it's going to come back to life or not. But it was, Michelle's like, it was in Rice in the house. And she's like, put the phone on the porch. We can't stop it because you can't stop the alarms. And so until it had like 65% battery, and just had to keep the alarms all night long. It just doom. It was a slow, painful death.
You're correct.
From my Galaxy S7 just died.
Oh yeah,
I know.
It is really sad. It's. I think that there's something.
But fortunately,
going on.
we had a friend.
We did the Rice thing, Dale.
We had a friend who had given us a phone that wasn't working very well for her.
An old one.
But the problem that wasn't working for her isn't working for me now. So I'm good for now. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. All right, let's pray for this country real quick.
Yes, let's pray for this country.
Lord.
I feel
we got
good.
to end it with the Holy Ghost. Lord Jesus.
Lord Jesus.
I thank you so much for this country. I think
thank
that
you,
it
Lord.
is literally, Joe Biden says a country is America is an idea, and we have never lived up to that idea, and I say false. I believe that our founding fathers lived up to the ideals of America, that they founded a country based upon the word of God, that it would be perfectible, that we could come before you, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, and I will come and I will heal their land. And so we just ask that you continue to just put the deep state in their grave.
Yes.
The deep state, not the people. You know, we want them to turn and repent. Turn and burn, baby. I'm just kidding. Not really. But God, I just thank you so much that you are exposing the lies.
Yes.
Open the eyes and give our country and give people peace out there for no matter what happens, they go and vote and they know that you rule the nations, and we talked about this in our Revelation Red Pill, that the nations of this world have become the kingdoms of Jesus Christ, and nobody rises or falls without God knowing it.
Amen.
Okay, I've heard people say Bill Clinton was the president we deserved. I believe that there are enough people in this country who are asking for your advice, asking for your mercy, asking for you to lead them and guide them, and it may be uncomfortable in the direction that you take our country, but you're going to take us in a way that will heal us. We want you to heal the land. We want you to heal the water. We want you to stop the pollution. We want you to stop the corruption. We want moms to be able to stay at home. We want dads to make enough. We want people to make enough. We want them to keep enough of their wages. We want people to be able to work at home. We want the regulations taken off of small businesses so dads can work at home. And moms and dads and families can have family businesses. And we can be a country of small businesses again. And so we just pray that you get big business out of there, big pharma out of there, and that you are our health care. And that you create wonderful doctors using medicine, but also wisdom and prayer and healthy food and healthy living. And we just pray for what Mom was saying, a great reformation Not necessarily a great awakening with a reformation. And we just pray for our president. I pray that you take him all the way home through the finish line and victorious, and that you continue to expose the lies of the Biden family and unravel that Lord. String. Hillary, Obama,
I
deep
kept praying
state.
that was my prayer this morning. I said, God,
the CIA,
keep pulling the string.
FBI, and
keep pulling the thread.
Ever since the CIA was created, ever since the FBI was created, Hoover and going after Kennedy and all these things, it's evil. And Kennedy knew about it, and Reagan knew about it, and they weren't able to stop it because they needed the blood of Jesus. And we pray that you get us back on the gold standard. And we pray that you get us back to real money so that we can live a good, honest lit life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Guys, I'm so excited. I cannot even tell you how excited I am. We're going to have a party. Choo choo, boogie, choo choo.
Are you
riding that Trump train? Oh, man. Gosh. We live in the best country in the world. Love my president. Love my Lord. Love my family. Okay, so we're going to sign off. It's been a wonderful night. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to all of our moderators.
Mom said 95% of those guys, they didn't have any taxes. They owned land. Everything was voluntary. Gold and silver coins. It was real money. That was the life. We need to get back to that.
Patriot Gallery says she'll be reading her blog loud probably tomorrow, or probably around 1 a.m., in the morning here. So we're going to go eat. I think we have one more pet visit to do. We got to run across the street. But as always, remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory. If it's the truth, please like, comment, and subscribe to both of our channels, Resistance Chicks and Mass Faith 3, and Created by Divine Design. Find us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You got the list. We gave it to you. So find us everywhere. We are not going anywhere.
Happy birthday, Carson Michelle, November 9th.
Thank you. All right, so we will see you on Friday, tomorrow, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly roundup of news. More stuff is coming out every day. We will be fleshing out the stuff that dropped today.
Tomorrow.
6 o'clock. At 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then again, we'll be back here on Sunday.
You don't want to miss it.
At 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A lot of stuff's going on with the shutdowns and lockdowns in the UK, so you won't want to miss Sunday's show
Sunday
either.
At 1. All right, guys. We love you. God loves you. Go to bed in peace. I got a lot of people saying I'm all nervous. Don't be nervous.
Don't be nervous. Oh my gosh, I'm at so much peace. I have more peace now than I did at this time in 2016.
Tonight, baby.
I gotta tell you.
Tonight.
Exactly. All right. God bless.
It's cold, all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you call my name.